Divorce happens. In fact, it happens to almost 50% of first marriages. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Divorce Happens, a podcast to educate, inspire, support, and yes, make you laugh through divorce and beyond so that you can start fresh on the next phase of your journey. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh.
You get divorced. You get divorced.
Getting divorced?
I'm getting a divorce.
You're getting a divorce.
Because she's getting a divorce.
So what if I get divorced?
Hello. Welcome back to Divorce Happens, the show where we support you before, during, and after divorce with education, inspiration, and a little bit of laughter. Because as we know, divorce happens and then you start fresh. And we are here with somebody who is working in divorce all day long. Rhonda, tell us what you do.
Yes. Hi. I am a financial divorce advocate working with women, helping them navigate through the process and prepare as they're getting ready to go down that path.
Which is so important and so essential. We were just saying before we hit record, one of the questions I get every single day is from women who are stay-at-home moms or who have left the workforce to raise kids for a little while. And they're considering divorce, Rhonda, but they're not quite there yet. And they ask me, and so I'm going to ask you, Rhonda, what should we be doing to prepare for divorce if it's coming down the road, financially speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, I want to just say, Olivia, I'm so glad that people are planning, right? I'm
Yes.
so glad that they're asking these questions. I think that honestly, to kind of kick off this conversation, I think women need to be really intentional about being serious about doing things, right? Because what we're finding is, hey, their spouse might be doing stuff behind the scenes, and it's like, oh, hey, feel like they feel like they have all this time. So what I would say is a couple things. One is start being aware of what's coming into the mail, right? Whether it's bank statements or credit card statements. Start asking good questions, going to the financial, meeting with the financial advisor. And if there's a meeting scheduled, go with, right? So I think that before people decide that they're going to actually file, I like for them to be in a information gathering mode. And one of the things that I found early on was there was a study done by Prudential in 2000. It was a longitudinal study. They did another one in 2010. And I would argue that not much has changed because the whole intention with the study was to determine women's attitudes and beliefs about money and measure their confidence. And what they found was that women's confidence around money was low because the formula for confidence is knowledge plus experience. And if you have the knowledge without the experience, it's theory. And if you have the experience without the knowledge, it's trial and error. But when we can get those two things working together, it's magical because women start to show up and ask good questions and get engaged and lean into the conversation. But what I found is that because, the last 20 years, right, we're like, oh, we've made progress. No, because the women that are getting divorced have been in the institution of marriage for the last 20 years. They haven't had a chance to flex that muscle and work on their attitudes and beliefs about money.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that was brilliant, first of all. Yes, I'm like watching you like I'm taking a college course. I'm like, yes. So interesting, Rhonda. And, I talked to a lot of women. This happened to me today. I said to the woman, are you on the mortgage? And she's like, I think so. Right. And so how do we do this? Like if someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I hear you, Rhonda. I need to start collecting this data. How do we go about doing this in a way that's not going to cause the red flags to go up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always tell people, women are really resourceful and make excellent private investigators when they have to be. So, for example, right, if you have refinanced the mortgage in the last bunch of years, interest rates went down, a lot of people refinanced, You certainly could reach out to the mortgage company and say, hey, I'm updating my files, getting ready early for tax time. I'm just trying to get my office in order. Could you send me a copy of the mortgage paperwork? So that would be something that they could do, right? Um, it could be they're reaching out to the IRS to get their tax transcripts. Like, Rhonda, I know that we've filed taxes, but I haven't officially signed anything. I haven't signed anything. I haven't done a wet signature on tax returns, but they're getting filed, right? So you could reach out to the IRS and request a transcript. That just gives us an idea of kind of where things are at, but it doesn't give us the full tax return, doesn't give us the supporting documents, the schedules and things like that, but it gives us a good baseline. In addition to that, though, for those that are listening that they have kids that are approaching college age, this is interesting. So if you are the one who are like, hey, I'm happy to fill out the FAFSA, first of all, good for you because we all want to poke our eyes out when we're doing that. But there's a reason. If you know that there's a reason, and that is once you start filling out the FAFSA, they've changed the way that they've done it over the years, and it will auto-populate information from the tax return into the FAFSA process. Because I've had clients that are doing that, and they sit there and like, holy cow, Rhonda, we have been on this really tight budget, and he's now making 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand. I had no idea.
Hmm.
So there's some little like behind the scenes
Mhm.
strategies when you can approach it like, hey, I'm trying to get organized. I'm trying to be helpful. And women are helpful anyway. So it's not like they're,
Yeah,
but I think just having in your mind that attitude of being helpful
right.
and then also using that as a way to get information.
So smart. So much of this is having the gumption, right? And the chutzpah, all the words to do this. How do you help women you work with women before divorce? And so what do you do like if someone's listening to this and they're like, I'm too nervous to do this on my own. How can Rhonda help me? How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, usually it's guided support, right? So, like, the way that I've always approached this is I want to be able to help build women's confidence. And a lot of times it starts with the one thing, right? They do the one thing and then it helps build that process. So, I take everybody through what I call my bridge method. And the bridge method is really designed to help people have that guided support as they're gathering and organizing the documents. I say, okay, worst case scenario, right? You go down this path and you decide not to get divorced. Oh, well, your financial documents are organized. You've got a better idea of what's coming in, what's going out. You've gathered as much information as you can. What's the worst case scenario, right? The majority of the people do end up going down that path. So the bridge method is breathe and build your team. Who's on your team? Legal, financial, emotional. Reviewing the documents. So that's where the gathering and organizing comes. But also then looking at your budget, what's coming in, what's going out, identifying gaps in information, gaps in transparency, gaps in power, gaps in income. So I help them identify those pieces. And I would say to Olivia, like at the end of the day, I love being able to just infuse these little micro moments of education around the financials. But I also feel like from an educational process, like we can learn, but we need to be able to apply. And sometimes we need just a sounding board.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to be able to talk through things so that we're coming out of this process stronger and more empowered. I think we've moved a lot into, hey, we've just tons of education and you got to try to do it on your own. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do it on your own.
Right.
And then D, dial in the data, which is looking at property division, looking at support. How does that impact you? What does that mean for you? Guide to finish strong is the G, which is when you get toward the end. How do we make sure that all those I's are dotted and T's are crossed? And then lastly, the E, which is exhale, like, okay, got through the process.
Mhm.
And now for me, my role at that point ends and I'm passing the baton to what I would call that post-divorce team, which is legal, financial,
Right.
emotional, post. And then I start that process over with somebody else.
Right.
So it's been really effective and, taking it step by step, like,
Yeah.
and having a process, having a framework, having a container in which you can ask questions.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot.
It's a lot, and I remember just wishing I had somebody like you to say, "This is what we're gonna do, right? Here's what you need to do. Here's your homework. Here's what we need," things like that. How do and this is a silly question, but how do women afford you if they can't afford much right now?
Yeah, I know. And that's always a big question, right? Because I think at the end of the day, I always tell people divorce isn't free. I always like to look at, okay, how can you be moving in the direction that's going to help you be empowered financially while also managing those expenses? So there's a couple different ways that people will retain my services. One is they will ask a family member or a friend, which I know is a little unsettling and it can feel a little shameful or we feel guilty about it. But oftentimes it's the best way to start moving in the direction of getting your
Yeah.
stuff organized without setting off bells and whistles.
Yep.
Number one. Number two, PayPal offers a 0% 6-month financing. So you can do a 6-month financing at 0% interest to just kind of get things moving.
Yep.
So that's an option. For anybody that's listening that's in southeastern Wisconsin, which I know, gosh, I wish I could offer this in other states. We're working on that. But for right now, southeastern Wisconsin, we do have a special loan program through one of the banks here locally. And women have to be a client of mine. And then it opens up the opportunity for them to be able to get a
Wow.
$5,000 unsecured loan.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, wow.
So,
There's options.
so there's options, right?
Sure.
Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day,
There are
there's
options. And
options.
I always say to people, invest now because it's gonna save you money down the road, right? Because then
Yeah.
the first stop in a divorce should not be a divorce lawyer because they're gonna ask you for things that you don't have, right? Your first stop should be somebody like Rhonda that you can work through all the financial stuff, and she will be there for you. And, if anybody's listening, we actually have scripts in, multiple of our guidebooks on how to ask people in your family for money and with contracts and stuff like that. So, it's something that a lot of people do. It's very normal. It's okay, and you'll pay them back someday, or it's a gift. But it's worth it to work with somebody like Rhonda, who will be
Yeah.
your guide through all of
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I think you make a good point. I love it that you have those scripts because I think at the end of the day, if it's a gift, right? And again, each state's going to be a little bit different. But for the most part, if it's a gift, it would mean that it doesn't need to be repaid. Separate property, that's to you. If it's going to be a loan, right? And you want to make sure you've got the contract in place, then okay, then that could be part of the conversation around the property division on how that loan is going to get paid. And I just had a client I'm working with in Illinois, and that was exactly it. Her partner on their paperwork for disclosure put that there was this loan to her parents, right? So at the end of the day, it was like, okay, well, there's this $25,000 loan. Is it a loan?
Right.
Is there paperwork to back that up, or
Right.
was it really a gift and she's trying to pass it off as a loan so
Right.
it gets repaid?
Mm,
So
mm,
again, it does matter.
it does.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and I think the other piece too that I was thinking about is, there's been a lot of, and I've been saying this for years, and now I'm starting to see it on social media, which is, hey, we've just passed this 50-year mark of women finally being able to take on loans without a male cosigner. Yay. However, here's the thing. I'm still seeing that mindset show up when women are going through divorce because they're afraid. And I'm like, okay, we're not in the 70s anymore.
Yeah.
We've got to start getting more comfortable with taking on risk.
Right.
And what we're also doing is flexing that muscle because hopefully the divorce is not the biggest expense you're going to have
Right.
if it's done properly, right? It's going to be an expense, but you're going to want to buy a car.
Yep.
Potentially. You're going to want to buy a house. Maybe you want to buy an investment
Right.
property or a business
Yep.
or something where you got to get comfortable with taking on risk.
Yeah. No, it's true. And what better time than when working with somebody like you, Rhonda, who can help them
Yeah.
figure all of that out. Your advice is just exceptional and so essential. And I'm so grateful that you are part of our community and supporting people because this is the time that women need the advocate. And there's so much financial abuse and so much just financial knowledge that is not shared, like you said so beautifully. And you are so just warm and non-judgmental and just there to support people, which I think is this the second question I get from a lot of women is, am I going to be judged for my finances? And I, yeah, it's
No.
really, it's so, I know it's so sad. And I'm like, no,
So sad.
none of our experts will ever do that. I promise. No, no, no. Yeah. That's why
Oh,
I
I
know.
goosebumps with that.
Yeah.
Like that makes me sad actually.
Yeah, it is. It's very sad. And these are a lot of women that like have all sorts of financial situations, and so that's why I send them, your way because they need the support. But we just are so grateful for you. If somebody is listening to this, Rhonda, and they're going through a divorce or considering a divorce, what would be some words of encouragement you could leave them with?
Yeah, I would really want your listeners to know, first of all, you're not alone, right? Which I know they probably hear a lot, but you're really not alone. I will never judge you. And number three is you're smart. You are smart. You just maybe haven't had the opportunity to acquire the knowledge or have the working experience to help build that confidence. But man, when I see that happen and that transformation happens, look out. We have empowered women now.
So true. And that's
I
why
love it.
they don't like it. Yes, it's so true. It's so true. Rhonda, we appreciate you so much. If anybody would like to work with Rhonda, please go check her out. Obviously, in the show notes will be her link. You can go to freshstartsregistry.com/experts and see her there. She has so many fantastic podcast episodes and everything. Like, go to follow her on social media. She's constantly giving away such great tips and tricks. And even if you're not divorced, all women should know what Rhonda has to say because it's really about empowerment and finances. So thank you so much for being here, Rhonda.
Thank you for having me.
Divorce Happens is produced by Fresh Starts Registry, the only divorce registry platform for everything you need to begin again, including home items, hype team, and everything in between. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh. We're here to support you before, during, and after divorce. Head to freshstartsregistry.com for more info.